are and what district you're from, etc. And I think most people are here from the newsletter or from our previous meeting. What we want to kind of accomplish in this meeting is what you're doing in phys ed and health. You know, I'll break it down K6, 7, 12. And the other thing is, for help of everybody here, what are the concerns in your district? What's most pressing? What's most challenging at this time? And then Brian too, is you'll have the video, but if after the meeting, if you can take 5 minutes and saying, this is what we're doing in our district, this is unique, this is working well, this is working well maybe because our collaborative effort, and then what are we doing with final grades? I guess my thinking too is that I'm not sure if we're going to go back to school. So in lieu of that, does that change how you're teaching in the content? And I think, you know, I'd like to say, you know, we're going to be back May 1st. I don't know. So I think we got to look at, this is long-term, what do we do? So let's start introductions. We'll go with Brian, then everybody just chirp in and we'll go from there.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining. Brian Downey, Honey Falls, Lima. We're just south of Rochester, New York.
Morning, Al Quackenbush, Friends Academy from Section 8.
Morning, Al.
Patrick Irving, Gage Chi Central School District, just west of Rochester, New York, Director of PE Health and Athletics.
Good morning, everyone. Denise Kiernan. Sorry, Carol. Hi from Long Island. Hello, everyone. Denise Kiernan. I'm from Section 1. I'm up in the North Salem Central Schools. Good morning, everyone. Happy to see you all.
Good morning, everybody. I am Chapter 8, Nassau County, Rockville Center. Carol Rosetto.
Hi, guys. Jason Lembeck out of Clarence, Section 6 near Buffalo.
Morning, guys. Jeff Wheaton, Amherst, Section 6 out of Buffalo.
Morning, Chris Corey, Newark Central Schools, just east of Rochester in Section 5.
April Wertheim, Syracuse City School District, Section 3.
Ben Sturwalt, Syracuse School District, Section 3.
Tim Ray, Auburn, Section 3.
Michael Gordon, Lawrence Public Schools, Nassau County.
Greg
Moran, New York City Public Schools.
Warren, New Paltz, Section 9.
Good morning, everyone. Kermit Moyer from Section 9 in Ellenville.
I don't know if anyone heard me before. Jim Rose from Section 1.
George Emmerich, Georgetown City School District, Section 3.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Charlie Gonsalves, formerly Section 11, now currently in Section 2.
Good morning, Kathy Ryan, City School District of Albany.
Jamie Rockdale, Section 2, Scotia Glenville.
Good morning, Ashley Chappell, Section 2, Albany High.
All right, I think that's all introductions. If I haven't got somebody, you can pop in. Jason, I'm going to pick on you first. You're going to kind of lead the charge and we'll go. And then everyone, don't be shy. I can either call on it or you can just speak up. And if you have something to add, let's go, go, go.
All right, so K through 12, what we've been doing, like many schools, K through 5, real simple activity log that if kids want to do it, we're just trying to encourage them to be active and healthy. Some of our teachers are posting videos of different workouts, different simple skills, things that they would be doing if they were in their track and field unit, long jumps and, different things for ideas mainly. Middle school, they've been using a Schoology platform, and they actually have been posting their study guides that they would typically have. They'd actually do quick little check-ins, checks for understandings, not really quizzes for grades per se, because it was a strong message that we weren't really grading new material, from the district perspective. And they're also doing an activity log, the high school level. We were doing activity logs, and the first period of time, third quarter, we added what we used as some of our medical work, asked the kids to complete like a 2-page paper on a given topic. Moving forward into the fourth quarter, we've decided just to go with the activity log. I think the burden on these kids and the teachers is pretty significant, and it was, and the parents, and so it was met with a little resistance to do a paper and activity. People felt that they didn't have to do that normally, so although they were learning in class at variety different ways, but they felt that was a little too much for some of the high-flying AP kids. We got a little resistant, so our district administration said, let's just cut back on that a little bit, and we were okay with that. I think the hardest part has been, as we're ending the third quarter here, and the concern, Ron, would be the grades, trying to work that out, what we're doing. We are a no harm district right now, in the sense that we're not failing any kids, even if they were failing prior to the break. We are, giving them 65s, the kids that were below that mark, encouraging them to do some work to turn some things in. But, our superintendent did not want to hold any kids accountable to the point where they're going to fail, any course really. This was not just phys ed. So, the kids will be getting 65s. And then we'll see what takes place, but we are trying to figure out, the grading system for the fourth quarter, currently. So I think that's just the biggest concern, that there are some teachers that just want to stick it to somebody if they haven't done anything. And in this time, that's kind of a big ask. So, that's kind of where we're at.
Great. And, the last part, what you talked about, that grading, I think is going to be one of the most challenging aspects. And trust me, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, and each district is going to be so unique in how they handle it. I'm going to shoot right up to Kathy Ryan. Kathy, if you could help us.
So I'm going to defer to Ashley Chappell. She's been handling all the physical education for the Albany School District this year. I think she's online.
Good. Morning, Ashley.
Good morning. Making myself a Belgian waffle. So in Albany, we are using Google Classroom K through 12. The elementary teachers are posting in the classroom teachers Google Classroom. They do basically an assignment every day. They're posting videos, or they're doing their own little videos, different challenges and stuff. We've been using Open Phys Ed for resources, as well as some of the things that we found on Twitter. If you use the hashtag HPE at home, there's so many resources people have used. At the middle school level and high school level, they're kind of doing the same right now. For the first week, which was last week, they did a fitness log for the middle school kids. And at the high school level, they created some classes, some different activities for the kids to do. Each teacher is doing something different at the high school level, but in terms of elementary and middle school, they've all worked together to do basically have one communication to all students. So all the elementary schools, I think we have 11 of them, they're doing the same thing, and all of the middle school teachers assign the same thing. So it makes it easier for them, because there is a huge learning curve with our K through 8 teachers, as they haven't used technology. So they're trying to learn at the same time that they're trying to teach students.
Ashley, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Could you do me a huge favor? When you're done with this meeting, send me just kind of bullet form, et cetera, what you're doing in your district. You always have great innovative ideas. I'd love to have them, and I can share those in the newsletter. All right?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. How about Denise? Karen, Denise?
Good morning, everyone. We have a couple of challenges here in section 1, specifically related to physical education, but not necessarily. I think it really boils down to attendance grading and synchronous versus asynchronous learning. We are at that point right now where we are trying to work with the teachers union to create a synchronous learning platform for our teachers to roll out in phase 3. We actually took our vacation the first week that we were out of school, the week of March 16th. So we had about a week and a half to prepare for the distance learning online materials. I will say, Ron, that I have directed my teachers to the Victor Central Schools website. The distance learning program that's set up there is phenomenal. And there are some of you here in this room right now that have done some great things. But I'm really more interested in how you're selling the synchronous versus asynchronous teaching. I think everything else we're talking about is great, and it's really non-negotiable at this point. You know, planning activities for our students is great, but I think the notion that we're going to put our teachers live in front of a camera is probably more litigious than anything. But I just wanted to hear from any of you who are doing it and are successful with it. I know some school districts have some teachers that are already doing it and are successful. We're looking to move very slowly in the North Salem schools to roll this out. So any advice or feedback would be great on that. Attendance, we are having our students just basically sign into Google. That's their attendance for the day, which could stand for any subject area. As far as grading for quarter 3, very similar to Jason, we are at the point where we are trying to get all of our students passed. We had 8.5 weeks of the semester in school already, so we figured that would be a numerical grade with the no harm agreement. And then quarter 4 would be pass-fail academics across the board, whether or not we go back to school.
Fantastic. Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
Jeff, if I could come to you, Jeff Amherst.
Morning, everybody. We're similar to, what we've heard so far. We got a pretty early jump on this, Amherst. We have a pretty involved superintendent that jumped on it pretty early as far as getting information out to our teachers, very supportive teachers union. So we've really been at it for at least 3 to 4 weeks now. Now echo what somebody else said about Victor schools. We use some of that stuff too as our model as well as we move forward. We are a Google school, so we jumped on pretty quick with Google Classroom. Our teachers did a nice job. Our district did a great job of getting Google Classroom trainings in place for all of our teachers. So that was great. Secondary level, 6-12, we've been doing activity logs, daily journals, posting workouts for all of our students. And they've done really a nice job with that. I'd say that the engagement rate has been pretty high. Starting this week, elementary level, we're doing daily video announcements. We've been doing weekly newsletters out to all our students and families, trying to engage our students with physical activity that way, but still trying to keep it pretty basic and simple. We all know that our families are struggling as we are, so it's important that we keep it basic and simple and we continue to move forward. We are also a no-fail district for the 4th quarter, so none of our students will be failing the 4th quarter. Just encouraging engagement and keeping kids engaged as much as possible. But that's about it. Just echoing a lot of what you all are saying. So thank you.
Jeff, couple questions. So the no fail. What if I have failed 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have, so 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is still a numerical grade. It's the 4th quarter is what I'm talking about for no fail. If students are not engaged and they're not logging on to Google Classroom, they're getting an NG in our grade report, which is no grade, which will default at a 65.
Okay, great. Now, videos. I know Victor is doing now that they think they may not be coming to school, are doing instructional videos. Is that what you've tried to do also?
We have not. We decided as a district that we haven't really asked our teachers to do instructional videos in that way. We kind of erred more on the side of valid resources, age-appropriate resources that are already out there from professional organizations to get those out to our students, as opposed to our teachers doing their own videos at this time.
Okay, great. George, are you out there? Can you help us out?
Yeah. Watertown City School District, we gave all our students Chromebooks. So 3rd through 12 have Chromebooks, and we're doing Google Classrooms. But the problem we're having are high school students. There's about 1,100 kids in our high school, and we have about 381 signed up for Google Classroom. We have one single Google Classroom for all the classes, and they have activities to do in there. But we decided when this all happened that we weren't going to grade students. We couldn't give them new material. We could review, but we weren't going to grade. So since they don't get a grade, we're having a hard time getting our students to sign up for Google Classroom. And we had students that had makeups. So what we were doing for makeups for the first 3 quarters is they were doing activities at home and getting their parents to sign off on it. And some of our high school teachers worried about their accountability. So we had that issue, and just getting kids to participate, but we're trying to encourage them to, stay active and do things. And we went from number grades to now we're doing pass fail. So we're struggling to get kids involved.
I don't think you're alone in your struggle, George. I really don't. I think it's that balance is, and what I've heard from different superintendents is this balance of all the other academic, but trying to get physical activity. And I guess my opinion is in this time, the activity, whether it's the individual student or the family together, I think they need that activity just to keep them healthy and mentally in the game, if you will.
Yeah, and I tried to stress to my high school phys ed teachers, go back to the standards. What are our 3 standards? Maintain your health, stay safe, and use your community resources. So in the age of, COVID, how are we going to stay safe? We're going to use the social distancing and use our resources. What do we have in our community where people can walk and be active, but still be safe and to maintain their health? So hopefully that's guiding them a little bit.
Okay. Ben, if you're out there, if you can help us out, Ben.
So when we started here in Syracuse City, our superintendent reached out to WCNY, the local PBS broadcasting station here, and our teaching and learning team have a variety of different time slots to film teachers and directors about lessons. So each day from 10 to 10:30, we have a new lesson that a teacher is being filmed on this public broadcasting station. So we got a variety of different people. We want to make sure we include health, phys ed, and the social emotional learning piece. So there are a bunch of teachers. So now we think that all our kids have access to television so they can actually view all the different teachers that are performing on this. And each week prior, we say, look out for Mr. Sturwalt. He's going to be teaching an elementary phys ed lesson about target throwing, and this is what you can do at home. So they know, the teachers know. So that's our baseline. Then we also create out of our department a baseline of packets to all the kids that do not have access to internet or to a computer. We've been trying to get computers to all of our kids, but there's still that gap of those who had it and those who do not. So we're really worried about creating this bigger equity issue of a bigger divide and gap of learning. We're not doing any new content that we're providing for our staff. We're just reviewing. And I think someone said about not grading, it's more about feedback to the kids. We have a couple of different platforms that we use. We use Seesaw and Canvas. So the teachers are able to upload different content into there and check in with their students with that. We encourage all our staff to use the different video platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just to connect with the students. Our biggest thing is, are we getting feedback back? A lot of some schools are getting about 40% feedback back. Other schools are only getting about 8 to 10%. We know, we're very aware of the amount of information that we're providing out to the district, so we don't want to overwhelm those families at home. So what we're trying to do is tell our teachers to personalize it to their classroom and really focus on that. Don't go, there's some teachers that are going above and beyond, but we also don't want to overwhelm them at the same time. The WCNY stuff has been really great. We're hoping that it actually gets picked up across all the different broadcast stations in the state. And we want as more authentic people on it. So we didn't want to just pop on YouTube and have the kids follow along. We want them to actually see their teachers on the TV screen going and working through all this. And so now we have about a catalog, about 15 to 20 different episodes. So each week I kind of say, this is the episode that's going to be on, and then they can go forward with that. Regarding grading, we've been discussing averaging the first three marking periods, and then the fourth marking period would be that. And that's still going on as a district discussion. We are going to be a no-fail district as well. A couple other things that we wanted to touch base on was hands-only CPR. How's that going to be done? And the health credit as well.
Nice. Unique with PPS. That is great. I love that. Question, Ben, how do you get packets to the kids?
So what we've been doing is, and it's really been a heavy lift for our district, is we did a survey to everyone, and each one of our teachers had to make contact home and ask them these set of questions of, do you have internet access? Do you have this? And then those that did not, we did a mass production of packets. So we're not just working in the phys ed department. I'm working with the science director, the ELA director, the math director, and we're designing these learning menus that are about like 5 sheets. And we have this little playlist that the kids can actually go, and then the student is able to manage that. So it's not overloading. So math is not saying going all in this different direction. We're kind of doing this together. So we're all on the same page. So the first week, every student got a packet. We did, and then as we started to get more feedback of who had access to devices, that's when we said, okay, this family would get a packet for home.
Fantastic. Jamie, if you can help us out. Jamie.
Get myself unmuted. Sorry there.
Okay.
We're also using Google Classrooms, and we also break it up in 3 parts, very similar to what I'm hearing. So our K to 5, they are inside the stream of each elementary. We have 4 elementary schools. Each of their teachers in there would have a Google Classroom. So we're, as physical educators, we're inside that. And so what we do is we have every Monday, actually yesterday, we're given, not a lot, we're only given 20 minutes of time. So our teachers have to go into the Google Classroom for, say, a 4th grade class, hypothetically, at this certain time, and put the link in so that the children can go in, and then they have some FaceTime. And what we've been doing with that opportunity, it's good that we have Monday because we set the expectations for the week, and then we have a Google website that we direct the traffic to. So, for example, thanks to a lot of stuff we've learned over the years being involved in the COA, we have just kind of our pillars of things. So we're doing like their fitness for the week, their citizenship benchmark for the week, and their activity for the week. So we're kind of consistent with all our elementary schools. They don't do a lot of, I'm trying to figure out what synchronous means, Denise, but you know, like we don't do a lot of FaceTime education in that time. We just want the kids to be on the screen like we are now. And very similar to what we're doing, we let them, Ron, have a moment to share. And then we direct them to their website, our website. 6 through 12 is pretty similar, although the expectations for the middle schoolers is scaled back. But each of those, it kind of goes the opposite way. So our elementary teachers don't have their own Google Classroom, but our 6 through 12, they have to have a Google Classroom for every PE class they teach. And then they're given a time schedule. So we put together this little schedule here. We call it a virtual schedule. So we go on an A, B day or odd even day. And what our teachers are given they're given a 30-minute block of time that follows a schedule. So they would actually have their regular fourth period odd PE class once a week, and they get them for about 30 minutes. And so that FaceTime is a little more valuable in terms of it's just one smaller group of kids. And so we do similar stuff. We direct them to existing stuff like people are saying, but we also have that time to talk about the requirements. Our grading is similar to what we're hearing. We had a long debate about how to do this, but all the administrations from our math department heads, English, and principals came together, and the third marking period, we're going to say what we did is we just ended back to where the date when this all started, March 13th. And as we move into this fourth marking period right now, yeah, we're living in the pass fail idea, and there's been talk, I don't know if we made this up or not, but pass with honors, pass with high honors, which are really, they don't bring numerical value. They just bring sort of credit to a kid who's killing it right now and wants to be seen as just a little above passing. I hope all that made sense, but that's kind of where we are with what we're doing.
Great. No, it does. Thanks, Jamie. Chris Corey. Chris, you out there?
Yes, sir. So I'll try not to be repetitive with some things we're doing similar, but in Newark, a commonality amongst K-12 is we're providing a lot of choice boards and creating playlists for kids on Schoology for 312 and Seesaw for K2. And then we're also doing an activity log 612, and we are using Microsoft Forms for that. Simple 3 questions, kids go in once a week to record their activities. That's working well because it produces a spreadsheet, kind of like a grade book or like a checklist that our teachers would use in class. Our district at the secondary level has standardized a student engagement rubric based on 3 criteria: demonstration of understanding, work completion, and collaboration. I share that because that's the first time that's happened, really standardizing what assessment looks like in the 4th quarter to get towards a pass-fail. So essentially they have to receive 5 out of 9 points on that rubric to get a passing grade in the 4th quarter. If they same thing, do no harm. If they had a passing grade coming out of quarter 3, they're going to pass the course. But we did put in there if they were not passing before quarter 4, there is some level that they have to achieve on the student engagement rubric. And then the last thing I'll share that we're doing is having office hours. All of our instruction is asynchronous, but we have office hours where teachers have to be on a Google Meet periodically during the week at a specific time, so students can access them if they need to face-to-face. And then the last thing, we've really standardized our learning target across the board, and I will be active for 60 minutes every day.
Good. Chris, some unique things. It's good. You're going to take some 5 minutes and you're going to share those. You're going to put those in writing, get to me. And I'm sure that treadmill behind you has gotten a lot of work, but you can send me your minutes and you can log into that. Jim Rose is going to come up. Jim is one of those guys. He's been in EMT, I think, since he's been 18 and sort of puts himself out there to help others all the time. So, Jim, kudos to you. And Jim, if you could help us out, appreciate it.
Sure. Basically, I see 3 levels of this distance learning. And my teachers started out at the lowest level where they just put work on their sites. And we're using every platform there is, and we're such a large district. And then we had a few teachers that were the next step above them where they were doing videos for their classes. So I started challenging everyone. Once we went past the first 2 weeks, I started challenging everyone to go to that next step and start doing more videos of classes. And that third step to me is when you have the full interactive classroom where you are teaching and getting feedback from the kids and seeing and being able to assess and so on. That's the next challenge I put out to our teachers. We have 39 schools in each school site. They all have their information and work and lessons, and they have office hours as well. Excuse me. And they basically do their assessments, do their teaching all through the means, whatever they're using. We have, for instance, Castle Learning, Sundog, all the other ones you've talked about, we use them all. There is talk in our district of trying to go to one. Don't know how possible that is and if that's going to happen. We also have a little bit of a movement now where they're trying to have on our page a distant learning spot, mainly for the state to be able to see what's being done, because everything really is being done at the school level. So they're trying to filter stuff into that. Being such a large district, the challenge we have with that is we have a lot of administrators doing a lot of different things. We have one person trying to upload that, so there's a delay in uploading everything to that site. And there's a lot of, at times, confusion because there's so many different people involved. But right now, I'd say most of the teachers, a lot of them are doing some sort of videos for lessons. And we're trying to take that next step to go more interactive. Grading wise, we do have a grading policy that was approved last week. It's a mixture of a couple of things. They did not want to hurt kids at the lowest level, and they did not want to hurt kids at the highest level. So basically what it is a combination of numerical grades and a pass-fail. Any student that has a grade above 85 in the class will get a numerical grade. Any student below 85 would get a pass-fail. And there is a rubric to what is passing and what is failing for the students involved in distance learning. So that basically sums up what we're doing, where we are, and how we are working.
Fantastic, nice. Appreciate the work you are doing as an EMT too. Is help me, New York City. I need the name, but if New York City could come on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Jana Moran, and Yuki Yamada is also here from District 75, our special education district. So I'll go first and let Yuki jump in just in case they're doing anything different in District 75. But we're similar to a lot of what you're talking about. About 75% of our schools are on Google Classroom. And just in the challenge of being such a large district, you know, our schools are all on different domains. So many of our schools had their own domains, and then the DOE created one single domain for all of the students to be able to access. But that's been a little bit of a challenge, you know, opening up the domains. And then we do have teachers who work in multiple schools, so that's been a challenge for them as well. But just to speak a little bit to Denise was talking about the synchronous, so the live versus non-live instruction. One of the things I would say is it's a huge challenge for us here to provide live instruction, because in getting devices to kids, and we are still getting devices to kids, we do have a lot of kids in a variety of situations, right? So you have kids who are living in parts of the city where it's almost like living in suburbia. And then we have kids who are living in shelters where there might be 4 kids in a room with one device, all trying to access at the same time. So that synchronous instruction is a huge challenge. I would say even for myself as a parent who is working from home and I live in a suburban district, I think we're all on a device at the same time every day. So if my kids were required to do live instruction, it would be a huge challenge for us here. What else? We're posting lessons. So the Department of Education created a Teach Hub. So it's like a Google Classroom for teachers. And centrally, we're posting lessons for the lowest level teacher, so the most technologically challenged teacher, so that they can go in and just pull those lessons and post them. Grading is definitely a challenge because we have so many schools. As a district, I think we would have to come up with the option to change the grading policy in each school So right now, grading policies stand as is. We haven't been able to move to a pass-fail model, but I think that's something that will probably come up in the future. And what else? I would say we're working with a lot of partners to try to offer specific things like videos. So I think Ashley had mentioned Open, so we're working with Open, to see if we can provide additional content for our teachers. And also with health education, we're working with ETR to try to get online access to their curricular materials. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, Chris had mentioned the idea of like a choice board. So I live in Wantagh on Long Island, and that's what the system that they've just moved to with the schools. So the elementary schools are putting out like a choice board where there's about 10 activities in each subject area, and the kids can then go in and select which ones that they want to do each day. And so phys ed is included in that. I think that's pretty much about it.
Hey, Ron?
Yes.
Can I ask you, while we have everybody here, maybe just to add it to the agenda later, I'm curious to see how many people actually have the grade count in physical education. We're spending a lot of time talking about grading, and I'm just curious. Maybe later, not now, sorry. Jana.
That's a good point. I don't know how many districts phys ed's a part of the GPA. That normally hasn't been a lot of districts, but there's some type of pass, fail, et cetera, and accountability. And I think that's where maybe the shift has come to. Jenna, anything else?
I think, yeah, I mean, you all mentioned attendance, and right now most schools are doing attendance by engagement. So our kids logging in every day. I think the attendance right now is really more for safety purposes than anything else, just making sure that students are accounted for and safe. Yeah, I think our periods have been reduced. So the recommended length of a period is now 25 minutes as opposed to say 40, 42, or 45.
Great, Jen, I knew it would be interesting talking with you. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Tam Ray, can you help us out, Tam?
I can. The lights just moved. There we go. We're a combination. We were a Google Classroom school before we started, so it was an easy transition at the secondary level. We are trying to do new learning now. We're doing, for example, in our adventure classes, we're doing the video showing them how to tie the knot, and then they have to send us back a video so that we can give them feedback. At the elementary level, it's more of a paper-based. We did hand out Chromebooks from 5th through 12, and we did have some hotspots. At the elementary level, we're jumping in with the classroom teachers when they do their Zoom. We're like their guest speaker and give them activities and fun things. So I think that's good. I like the integration there. I think we have a directive from our superintendent not to grade and not to keep attendance, good or bad. So we're keeping logs, and we're focusing on feedback, and we're focusing on connecting with kids. So I think that's my question to the group is, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm missing like 100 kids at the middle school. I can't get them. I can't get them on the computers. I can't get them in paper. I don't know what to do about that. So that's my biggest question. And then our phys ed grade is included in the GPA, and I think because of our directive not to grade, I'm good with that. And I think my philosophy going forward with our superintendent is going to be, whatever you do with the classrooms, I just want to be the same. I don't want any special treatment, but I also don't want to be treated as less than. So, and I do think we'll fall into the no harm category, whichever way we go. But I could be harmed, the kid that's just like the kid that came into this with a 92, and they want to get out with a 92. My kid that came in with a 56, my football coach didn't get the last marking periods to go after him to get him eligible. I don't want to harm that kid when I've seen a pattern in our world where those kids come back and are engaged in the spring so they can play in the fall. So I think our biggest thing right now, my biggest question is, how are you getting to the kids that you can't get electronically, they haven't answered with the paper? If anybody has anything on that, I'd be willing to listen to that.
You know, your point, I think, is a frustration of connecting. I think every district has to be experienced in that. And it's just, Tam, it's just different degrees along the spectrum. Brian Donahue is going to shed some light on that. So, Mr. Wisdom, go ahead. Let's go, buddy.
I don't know about light, but first of all, this is awesome. So thanks everybody for joining. Picking up a lot of things and very similar things. I'll share with you first our grading. We did, I think, Jamie, it was you that said March 13th. We ended our third marking period March 13th. Whatever your grades were, your grades were. However, we gave kids 4 weeks, not we as in phys ed, our district gave kids 4 weeks to make up anything they missed in the third marking period. So they actually had till April, I think it was yesterday. It was April 14th. Is that today? Today? They actually had till today to submit work for the third marking period. So our phys ed and how our phys ed does count towards their grade, their GPA. So the way we did that, not just in phys ed, but as a district, it was we had our counselors track that. So our counselors were our voices at the middle and high school. And actually each counselor had a spreadsheet of who was missing what. And so we ended our marking period March 13th. For the fourth marking period, the first up until May 15th, we're doing pass-fail. From May 15th to the end, if we're still doing this, teachers can do a maximum of 10 assignments that are graded that it will count towards a grade. During that time period, the lowest they can give kids is a 50. So that will be how we're doing grades the rest of the way. We just started new learning yesterday. Before that, it was all review, and I'm interested to see what all of you are doing in new learning because I have a meeting this afternoon to try to finalize what we're doing, and we're struggling a little bit at the secondary level in terms of new learning. We do use video. We do have teachers doing video. Like Newark, we use Seesaw at K2, and then we use Schoology 312. And one of the things we found was we surveyed all of our families who had internet access and who had computer access. And before we even went to online learning, we made sure everybody had a computer in their hands and had internet access. We even provided hotspots for families. But what we found was after about a week, even though kids said and families said they had internet access, and I think it was Janice said it, when families were home, maybe they had one computer, that parent was using that computer for work. So kids didn't always have the access to the laptop. And that's a real issue in terms of accessibility. And any other piece, Denise, you talked about synchronized teaching. We had that same conversation. We have teachers doing that, but we're not forcing them to do that right now. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you is we learned early on that our parents were getting over communicating with. They were getting messages from the principal, getting messages from every teacher, getting messages from our superintendent. And so what we did at the elementary level is our specials meet once a week, and we use Seesaw to send out one message a week on the Seesaw platform to our families. So they're getting it once from us, not every day or not multiple times a week. And then we have kids sending in videos on Seesaw. We have kids sending in videos on Schoology. And we've challenged families to do it together. And then we celebrate that on social media. One of our elementary schools does a dance party Friday. It's been a tradition for years. They do a big celebration every Friday, and they've been really unique with it. One of the teachers is our lacrosse coach. He uses his team with it. He uses his staff with it because he doesn't have access to kids now, and it's been a great positive thing to engage folks in our community. And then the last piece, I lost track of what I was going to say. There was one more piece to it.
As you think about
social emotional learning. We've talked a lot about social emotional learning, and I agree, Tamala, what you said about connecting. Our message is make sure we reach out and connect with kids, and especially those that give us agita because they're disarmed right now. This is the best time to touch base with them, and so we really are focusing on making sure we get to kids. And we do have office hours, like Chris said, and some of our teachers go above and beyond their regular office hours. Some of our teachers will do things at night just to connect with kids as well. And it's just funny how the unions react to that because it's outside the school day, but that's just the kind of people we all know, the kind of people we have in our departments. That's what they do. So,
Brian, a couple of things. You're the first one to mention counselors and their impact in this process. I'm glad you did because they can have an impact. And the other thing is, and I'm experiencing it here, you've got two parents, they're professionals, they're working from home. They may have 2 devices. Now, what does the kid have, et cetera? And I think what we forget is that parents are working. They're working from home. They're trying to survive in that next device. And, you know, in some of our districts, obviously HFL is a nice district. We don't have those resources in all the districts. And Tam said, trying to connect everybody, it's frustrating and it's difficult at best. I think getting back to Tam, you use every means you can to reach out. This is a different time. And I think when it's said and done and we go back and we reflect on this, we're going to say to ourselves, what did we do real well? What could we have done better? And I think there's going to be some things where, wow, there's some things we can learn from this. I like your last piece, Brian, social emotional, and that's a huge piece. Our kids, our teachers, our parents are all going through this at the very same time. It's never happened to anybody. So we're going through something that's so unique. It's almost hard to describe. We all wish we could snap our fingers and tomorrow we'd be back in school, we'd be working, and our lives would be normal. It's not going to happen. So I think that unique times for sure. Charlie, I know you're out there. I know you're not in the field as far as the teaching, but your perspective, Charlie.
Well, again, I wanted to bring up the fact that social emotional learning and mental health have really come to the forefront in the last several years, and this really accentuates it. And it is a work in progress. And a lot of the things that we've experienced these last few weeks certainly are going to prepare us better for the future, because using Google Classroom and creating other means of communication and getting other types of feedback from our students may enable us the opportunity to get to know our students on an even higher level. And looking at some of the things we've discussed today, I think with the pass-fail grading system, it's pretty much one of the only things we can do at this point, because we just don't have the facilities and the opportunity and the time to meet with students. But creating rubrics and benchmarks that give us some form of grading, just a benchmark for grading, just to give us an idea as to where students stand at this point involving their participation and involvement. But, again, I kind of like to go back to the social emotional learning piece and the mental health piece that I think are really going to come forward now as integral parts of our systems.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The other Charlie R., if you can help us out. Morning, Charlie.
How are you?
Good. I'm
so, thank you for having me on. First, I want to apologize for my crazy haircut. One of the things I did with my kids, because we can't go to a barber, is I sent out a poll to them asking them if I should let my hair grow out or hand my wife the clippers and let her go to work. And 70% of them said, give your wife the clippers, and this is what happened. So right now in our district, we're using Google Classroom like a lot of you are. We have our high school teachers and our middle school teachers have individual Google Classrooms for each course that they teach, whether it's health or PE. Our elementary school teachers are just using websites because they don't use Google Classroom, and they're using Seesaw, but they are linked up with the students' classroom teachers. So they're relying on the students' classroom teachers to provide their students access to the physical education content. We are still figuring out grading. Like many of you, the third quarter was a no harm quarter. Their grade could not go down in any way, shape, or form, even if they did nothing. But based on what they submitted during the third quarter, their grade could improve. For the fourth quarter, students are expected to turn everything that they're given in. And right now, we are expected to give a numerical grade for the fourth quarter. We may move to pass-fail, but right now we're expected to give a numerical grade. So as a department, we brainstormed a little bit and we came up with a rubric that we're going to use for everything that we ask to get back. In terms of our individual teachers, we're basically working from the same platform, but we're taking different paths to achieve whatever goals we're setting forth for our students. So I'm just going to share quickly what I'm doing as a teacher. And it's working for my students, but obviously that doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody. So I broke what I'm doing with my students up into 3 different categories. So there's please do, choose to, and for you. So their please do category is their weekly task, and I'll lay out what I do in a week in a second. So the please do category is their weekly task, the thing that I'm asking them to do that week. They have a week to accomplish whatever it is that I'm asking them to do, obviously taking the mental health, the emotional well-being, their family situation into account, and giving them as much time as possible to complete it. Their choose to category works off of connectivity, because I feel like although we're in a really unfortunate circumstance, it is providing us an opportunity to connect with the people in our lives in a way that our chaotic lives before may not have allowed us to. So that choose to activity is a lot of family activities, create a family time capsule, bury it in your backyard, set a date for when you're gonna dig it up, just things like that for them to connect with their family. Mindfulness activities for them to practice some self-care and connect with themselves, realize where they are emotionally and what steps they may need to take to improve that if they need to, and connect with community, although from afar. So write a letter to a service member in your community saying thank you. Create a tic-tac-toe board in your neighbor's driveway with some chalk and write your name under it. And when you go for your walks or your jogs, check the board and see if they moved, and then go put your next move to connect with neighbors, even though we're staying away. The choose to menu is exactly that. It's a menu of things that they can do to connect with their family, themselves, or their community. And I ask them to pick 2 of them and complete it before we get back to school. So that's not a weekly task. That's their own time. It's not meant to be a burden. It's meant to connect. And then the for you menu is just that. It's for them. There's no reflection associated with it. There's no assignment associated with it. And that's where all my activity is. Right now, I'm working off of a mindset that I don't want activity, movement, exercise, or play to feel like a burden, to feel like an assignment, or to feel like a task. I want them to move for wellness. I want them to move in ways that they want to. And I'm not necessarily holding them accountable for movement, although in every please do activity that I give them, there's movement options. But if for whatever reason movement isn't available to them, it's not safe for them, it's not practical for them, they can still complete the please do task without moving. It just moves more to like a cognitive assignment. And then in terms of like connecting with kids, I really appreciate everybody that mentioned connecting with kids, their overall wellness and social and emotional learning and literacy. I have a Google Meet for an hour every day where kids could jump in, ask a question, just say hi. In all honesty, most of them just jump in to say hi. They just want to connect as badly as we want to connect with them. I also created a blank Google form. I put it in all their Google Classrooms, and I set it to make an individual copy for each one of them. And I called it What's Up Zoots. And it's basically just a blank piece of paper for them to write to me if they want to, and then I'll reply to them. And I reply to like 2 or 3 of them a day, and they know I can't get to all of them all the time or every day. But I've had a lot of kids write me, and then when I've written back, they've responded. So we've almost created like a dialogue through this Google form. One mistake that I made, and it didn't come back to bite me, and I don't think that it would, but if anybody chooses a route like that, one thing to keep in mind is that when you do that, both you and the student have access to that document and everything that's put in it. So if they write to me and then I write back to them in that Google document, not saying that any of my kids would do this or any of your kids would do this, but you never know, they could edit what I wrote. So what I've started to do now is type my response in another document, screenshot it, and then paste the picture so they can't edit it into that document. And then I don't know if this is too much or not, but I've also called every single one of my families. So I started one class at a time, just going down the roster making a phone call for each one just to check in, not talk about grades, not talk about assignments, just to see how they're doing. But for me, that please do, choose to, and for you has worked out really well. My instruction is recorded. The only thing that's synchronous would be those Google Meets, and that's just for them to check in with me and ask some questions. So that's basically the way I'm framing my things for my students. The please do, the tasks, the activities, they're coming from the national grade level outcomes. So for example, with my middle school students last week, we did skill related fitness components. And then I put together a Google slideshow presentation with a bunch of minute to win it games that they could play and try to tie back into skill related fitness. But if they didn't or couldn't play those games, then they could just analyze the skill related fitness components and think about which ones could work. So there was an element of activity if you chose to do it, or if you could do it, and if you couldn't, you could still complete the task.
Charlie, why am I not surprised you have all these things popping up for us? That's great. You got to remember, it takes 5 minutes when we're done. Send me some things that you're doing. That's what I thought I would hear from you. Carol, would you like to speak to us?
Yes, I have 2 minutes. I have to go to another meeting. I'll
Okay.
just discuss grading, because I think Raffles Centers, I forgot who talked before, but we went third quarter pass fail. But if you were failing at the last progress report, then you could fail. You could still fail. And this is for everybody, not just phys ed. But even if you didn't turn in anything and you were passing at the progress report, everybody passed. So these last 3 weeks couldn't hurt you. So we are going to a grading system for the fourth quarter. Middle school, high school is on every assignment coming in now is on you get a score of 0 to 10. So we're working on that rubric right now. It's going to look something to the effect of 0 to 2, failure to participate in remote/distance learning, 3 to 4, students not meeting learning expectations, 5 to 6, students developing and marginally meeting learning expectations, 7 to 8, students' work is satisfactory and meeting the learning expectations, and 9-10, student work is excellent and exceeding learning expectations. So we are now trying to figure out how to adapt this to phys ed. The first month, we're kind of doing things incrementally. The first month for middle school and high school, we had writing assignments with a reflective piece. We now took these last couple of weeks to create a PE app on Glide, which a lot of people in Nassau County are doing right now. And so we're all sharing ideas. And then, so this is going to be introduced after, quote unquote, the break. So on April 20th, it is not interactive. Like right now, we as a district have not really been doing a live piece. Obviously, we're trying to go towards that. I am still a little fearful for my phys ed teachers for them to be actually demonstrating activities and then it going live and being retweeted and all that stuff. So, and particularly for 2 teachers which have had stalking issues in the past, I'm trying to keep everything uniform in terms of all the elementary teachers are doing the same thing, all the middle school teachers are doing the same thing, all the high school teachers are doing the same thing. We are Google Classroom from 4th grade and up. We are, and we're trying to teach 3rd grade. And then we just recently, over the last week and a half, trained the K through 3, I think also Seesaw and that platform. There's a lot of professional development going on with electronic, just platforms. So our next rollout for phys ed is the utilization of this PE app. We are now going to a Google survey form in order to get back data. Each phys ed teacher created their own 10 sections of their phys ed classes. So if I'm in second period odd, I'm responding to Mr. Smith's second period odd class, so we can kind of collect the data on what they're doing. So that's kind of what we're working on now, and that's going to be uploaded and spearheaded as of next week. So that's kind of our next progression. I like the ideas of the from Charlie. Not surprised I got a few from him again, as I always do. The Google Meetup, the everyday. I don't know whether we're going to do every day. I know the classroom teachers are now that this is what we're working on is how are the office hours going to look. So we'll create the same thing for phys ed, but I do like that, you know, we get on, and if you want to talk to me, I'm live for an hour and anybody can join in, just a hi, how are you type of thing. I see that working for phys ed. So that's kind of where Southside is at the moment.
Carol, thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck in that next meeting. Always nice
Oh,
to see you.
thank you so much. And then a root canal. How about that for a good day? Be well, everybody.
Thanks, Carol.
See you, Carol.
Take care.
Patrick Irving.
Thanks. And I'm going to run to a meeting right after this too. But in order not to be redundant, you know, our middle school, high school is entirely on Schoology. So we've been one-to-one with our devices for the last 4 years. So the transition was somewhat seamless. At the elementary level, all of our elementary students have devices in their classrooms, and as a way to make sure they had access, we about 3 weeks ago deployed about 800 laptops to families for pickup, which was a big challenge. We've also given out hotspots too, like many people have mentioned. What we're doing at the high school level or the middle and high school level for physical education and health is updating Schoology. We were doing activity logs. We're going to continue to do activity logs, but we're introducing new instruction. A lot of my coaches and staff are comfortable posting videos that are very much like direct instruction where they're presenting new material. We do have students responding with video, engaging in activities. I feel where we're getting the most responses at the elementary level, where our phys ed staff, they still have their classroom web pages where families are going to get content, to get resources, to get prompts. And we have a lot of students engaging in what we're calling weekly themes. So for instance, last week we did obstacle courses at the elementary level with varying prompts for those elementary students, whether they're P2 and then through 5. And we're trying to infuse some creativity into especially at the elementary level, so it's not redundant, it doesn't seem forced. So for instance, we had our phys ed staff make their own obstacle courses in their backyards with stuff from their garage, from their house, and then we had students try to replicate that and make their own. We had students designing them on paper and then sending them in, and we're using it through social media to promote it, and we were getting a really good response for that. But something that's new for us that we just started doing, we're in the process of giving parents access to Schoology, which is our online platform for middle and high school. So they have access to what teachers are asking students to do. Part of the feedback we were getting from families was they didn't know what their students were expected to do because they didn't have access to that information. So we're slowly rolling that out so parents can then get that info and they have a better idea of what is expected. From a grading standpoint, like Jamie and many of you have said, we'll have numeric grades, marking periods 1 through 3. And then the 4th marking period, we are trying to create somewhat of a hierarchy of completed with distinction, completed, and did not complete, something like that. We are discussing the idea of office hours, but that is not necessarily in place, although there's a lot of teachers that are doing that daily. And then our PE is part of our GPA, which is a big push, and I would hate to lose that. But that's a lot of what we've been grappling with here the last few weeks.
So one question, the Spartan in the back, he's doing a lunge but with no weights. How does that work?
He's promoting Section 5, be loud, be proud there, Ron. That's our new Spartan. That's me in that Spartan too.
Thanks, Patrick. Nice seeing you.
You got it.
Yep. Al, you out there, Al?
Yep. We're doing much of what I've heard already. We probably went out earlier than most and started actually putting together a distance learning program after we got back from February break. Our high school classes are graded, letter grade. All our other grades are pass fail. And so our teachers started putting together lessons that included workouts as well as other activities that stayed as consistent as they could with the units that they were teaching. The feedback that I got early on from our teachers was that many of our kids already became engaged in physical activity and exercise with their families. So after spending a day at a computer all day, we didn't want to drive them back to a computer during their physical education period. So having the choice to do what they were doing, as Jana mentioned, I think is really good. And they've been including all those lessons in a Google Classroom platform at the elementary level through their classroom portals. The teachers meet with the elementary grades once a week online through their classroom teachers because they have a common meeting time. So all the classes really are asynchronous. They fill out logs that are turned back into the Google Classroom platform, and the teachers have kind of restructured their rubrics a little bit as far as grading goes. I want to reiterate what Charles R. mentioned about things that kids can do together as a family. You know, we have a population where many of our kids are scheduled in so many organized things, and now those things aren't there, and the kids are home, and the parents don't know what to do. Some kids, parents, this is the most time that some of our parents have spent with their kids maybe in a long time. And we have some that are usually very engaged with their kids and some that are never engaged. So helping our parents learn how to play spud or stoop ball or wiffle ball or running bases, or, this is new to them. So we provided resources. We actually put together an app, which was not an original idea I got from another athletic director, but put together an app that they could download or access that has resources K through 12. And then again, in speaking to Charlie's point about social emotional learning, our health and wellness committee, in conjunction with our health teachers, our phys ed teachers, put together a web page that our families could access with all different kinds of resources on it. They get a fitness challenge once a week. Our school psychologists have made themselves available for any families or students that need it. So, this is a big change for a lot of families. And as, you mentioned, Ron, you have parents that are home trying to work. It's especially tough for elementary school parents and kids. So providing those types of resources and not getting too uptight about the nitty gritty about grading and, whether they're really doing what they're supposed to be doing. We check in with them, and we've actually gotten a really good response from our community.
So a couple of things, Al. The thing that you brought up, sort of the activities. I think about some of our parents, activity, gymnastics, this, that, and all of a sudden everything has come to a screeching halt. And so there's good and bad with that. And then you mentioned those outside things that, well, I'm a little bit older, but wiffle ball, playing horse, jump roping, just things that parents can do with their children, just fun things. Set up a badminton net, learn to play badminton in the back. There's so many things that we can do as parents. And I always say that the greatest, or the first teacher every single child has, is their parent. Parents can be great teachers, better than we would ever believe they can be. So a lot of nice comments. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Sure.
April, I know you're out there and dying to get on there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll just reiterate, most of you, all of you are doing great things. Ben pretty much summed up what we're doing in Syracuse. You know, it's very challenging times. One thing we just recently did, we didn't do it, but our tech department did, is they sent out a survey just at the secondary level to every parent, student, teacher, and administrator, and asked a series of questions about what they think the grading should look like for the fourth quarter, which I thought was interesting. They only had it out for about 48, maybe 3 days, maybe 48 hours. But I think almost 2,000, you know, mostly teachers, I think, responded, and then they're going to collect the data and let us know. But I thought that was interesting to do. I think most are leaning towards the pass-fail and not grading. In our district, it's a huge district. We have, you know, we go from below poverty to middle class, a little bit upper middle. We still have families that we're trying to get devices to. We have single parent families that there's one device with 3 or 4 kids in the house. So it's been very challenging. But we have people still knocking on doors, trying to get to every family, every parent to assist. There are some parents that are definitely struggling. I will say on the positive side of this ugliness is some of the teachers and staff have done amazing things. Even people we were in our own phys ed department that were pleasantly surprised. So, you know, it's a little light at the end of the tunnel are some of the things that I'm sure all of your staffs are doing that are just amazing for our kids. But again, Ben pretty much was, you know, detailed on a lot of what we're doing in Syracuse.
And I had an interesting conversation with a teacher yesterday. She has a 7-month-old baby. Her husband is quarantined and she's trying to do lessons. And obviously you can't get grandpa and grandma to come over to take care. So with teachers, there are some unique challenges how to get everything done in their time, in their own mental state. So it was interesting times, yes.
Yep.
We got about 5 minutes. I want to get everybody in there. Kermit, are you there, buddy? Is Kermit here?
Yes, I'm here, Ron. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Similar to what I shared last week, we're doing much of what everybody else has been doing. Our elementary PE staff is providing learning opportunities through teacher-based websites. Our 6 through 12 students are getting Google Classroom options from our phys ed staff. Activity logs are prevalent. They need to be continuing to try to log in and do those. I'll be quick because I know you want to get other people on here, Ron. I think our biggest challenge is we are going pass-fail for the fourth quarter, and I think we're still looking at how that's going to, how do you determine what's passing versus failing and the submission of work and how that looks. I think we're still working on that. We are, you know, we are going pass-fail though. In the third quarter, we had a numerical grade given. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, because I know you want to get some other people on board, Ron. So thank you.
Just 1 second. You know, the pass-fail thing, that's going to take some minds coming together and what's good for all the kids and the access they have. And that's, you're going to have some great discussions. I know you.
Oh, I know we will. Yes. All right. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Greg, you out there, Greg Warren?
Yes. Again, we're pass-fail. We did give the opportunity for third quarter students that need to bring a grade up, the opportunity to do that during the fourth quarter. You know, it's going along well, what I reported out last time with the activity logs, getting good feedback. We also include a mood scale along with the logs, and actually had a couple of parents say that that was helpful, that they didn't realize that there was a level of anxiety that they weren't picking up with their students. So that was good, positive feedback. And we do try to include a weekly mental health activity with everything that we have on there. We use Google Classroom 6 through 12, and it's through teacher websites. 5.
Great, good. Thanks, Greg. Mike, I know you're out there.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Mike.
At Lawrence, we're also using Google Classroom. The middle school and the high school, everybody received Chromebooks in September, so the health teachers were actually using them, and it was no problem, to add the phys ed classes. They've been sharing activities and resources, suggested things to do, and they've been keeping a log and a reflection. We've trained the lower level teachers in the elementary schools how to use Google Classroom. And for better or for worse, like I asked the teachers to please, add me on as a teacher, not for accountability purposes, but just to, encourage everybody if they needed anything, to share resources. So I get inundated with like tons of comments from the teachers and the students. But one of the great things is, when you see the students actually write back and say, oh, I love doing the scavenger hunt, and I did it with my family, or I did it with my siblings. So that's definitely been, one positive, especially on the lower levels. The biggest challenge, like some of the others, is making sure that we get everybody online. And our district, we seem to be unique with the live learning. We're using a platform called iTutor, which is honestly has just been a disaster for us. It's something that the teachers have never used before, the students have never used before. We've gone through a lot of professional development, some of which has helped, but a lot of it hasn't. There's been a lot of technological issues on their end. They can't meet the platform to hold everybody, plus all of the issues that the teachers are facing. The superintendent has mandated that the entire district is doing this, and that's a problem too, because just trying to get everybody on. So since we did have so many issues, what the superintendent said was, okay, select grades or select departments would actually go on. And it's taken a couple of weeks. We finally gotten teachers on, but then you only get 2 students or no students are going on for various reasons. So the the counselors are in the process of actually trying to reach out to students that have had no contact whatsoever. Yesterday, actually, the superintendent mandated that all of the rest of the district go on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens today. The phys ed teachers are all concerned about the sessions being recorded, and there's been a big union battle with that across the board. What some teachers have been doing is, if it's their scheduled time to go on and the live sessions aren't working, they've at least been going on with Google Classroom. So that's been a plus. And you see the interaction and what they're actually doing, even though it's through email or whatever, or however they're reaching out to them. But you could see that, so that's been great. As far as grading, our grades are averaged in with the all of the other grades for the third quarter. What they've been saying right now is that everything would count through March 13th, which was right before we closed. They're actually talking about extending the third marking period to April 30th, which is kind of long. And then just basically counting everything from March 13th on to whatever date it is, as extra credit. It can only help you, it can't hurt you. Nothing's been decided as far as the remainder of the year yet. That's in discussion. So that's basically in a nutshell. So I know Denise asked a lot of questions about the live learning. It definitely has potential. I could just definitely tell you, for us, using a platform that nobody else has ever used, plus with all the stress and everything else, it's just it's definitely been a struggle.
That will, when we hopefully convene in November at COA and we talk and we have a roundtable, we can reflect some of those things. It's interesting, platforms that are new and aren't quite working to what we would hope they would. So, and that's that collaboration. What is the teacher's input with the administration, and how does that work? So good comments. Kathy Hayter, you out there, Kath?
Yep. Our 7th through 12 students use Google Classroom for both health and PE. We are doing activity logs. One thing that we're doing at that level is a lot of my JV varsity modified coaches sent out workouts for their sport. We are allowing those workouts to be logged in for their activity for physical education, because we haven't added new learning. So we want them active, and we've given them a list of a lot of things, and we do have a lot of things website so they can go to yoga classes and different things like that. Or Zoom, there's different classes they can go to on Facebook. But some of the kids are doing that plus their athletic workouts, and some kids are just doing their athletic workouts, but still it's more time than a lot of the other kids are putting in, they found. They get that back, our middle and high school teachers get that back once a week from the students, what they did. Elementary, the same thing Patrick's kids just did. They just did, the last 2 weeks, they did a Ninja Warrior obstacle course in their backyards, and they sent in pictures of those so they could take a picture of it and send it back in and attach it. So we've seen a lot of kids participating. Grading, what you guys are talking about, we go on a 6-quarter system. The whole 5th quarter is going to be pass fail. And who knows if we'll be back for the 6th quarter. But at this point, what they're going to do is use the average of the 1st through 4th quarters for their end of the school year average, because it does count into their GPA. So it shouldn't hurt kids. And again, just like a lot of people, if kids needed to make up work, they were allowed to send in makeup work to make up for that, the 4th marking period. And we're just, at this point, we might just delete the 5th marking period, just be a pass fail, be deleted into their average overall for the year. But we are seeing a high participation rate, which is really good. And I'm in contact with a lot of kids through a student council Google page. So I email all the kids 712 because I'm the assistant principal at 712. So I email them and try and get some feedback from them. Where the K6, I'm not in touch with those students, but their elementary PE teachers are letting me know what's going on with them. So we are having pretty good participation, and our teachers do have to be available throughout the week at different times. Like if you're take 3rd period, 9th through 10th, 9th and 10th grade PE, then our teacher is supposed to be online at that point so they can be in touch with them with any questions or talk with them. So it's a lot. The teachers are in front of their computers a lot because it's for all their classes, 5 or 6 classes a day, whatever they teach. They're supposed to be there. And if they're not going to be, they have to put a time where they're going to be. They have to put it on that web page so the kids can say, oh, okay, I can ask them a question at 2 o'clock instead. So they're available and they're hearing from the kids.
Who have I missed out there? Who would like a chance, but I didn't get your name, et cetera? Is there anybody? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put 2 people on the spot. Tam and Brian, if you kind of wrap up for us and kind of saying, this is where we are in your words of enlightenment. So Tam, you go first, then Brian.
I think we're all doing the best we can. I think we're doing the best we can under difficult circumstances. I think it's helpful when you send these things out, Ron, because I know if we could get 1 or 2 different ideas out of these things, I think that's a good thing. I know I got a couple new things out of this meeting today, so I thank you for putting it together, Brian for hosting it, Ron for your leadership to get us together. And I think this is the best way to move forward, is to share what we're doing and our ideas for moving forward. And I look forward to be able to meet in person next November.
Thanks, Tim. Ryan, if you're going to wrap up for us, buddy.
The best I can. I think, this is what I tell our staff, and this is what I really feel. This is hard for us as adults. None of us are set to be in isolation. You can only imagine what it's like for some kids who have taken on new responsibilities at home. Maybe they're, maybe they're doing daycare they didn't do, or maybe their parents are so involved with work they're not connecting with them. What I tell our staff, and I would encourage all of us, is it's great, the cognitive pieces, the physical pieces we're sharing with kids, but to me the most important part is we connect with them. Charles, I like what you said. You picked up the phone and called your families every week, and I think that's what we need to do, because while this is a negative, it's actually a positive, because I think people are going to really value teachers and coaches and phys ed people and the connection that we make. And Zoom is one thing and it's great, but you can't do a fist bump on Zoom. You can't look at a kid's eyes and say, hey, great game last night. How you doing? You know, those are the connections that I think we bring every day to the table. And I think those are the things that we got to emphasize with our teachers to continue to do. You know, whether it's new learning, review learning, whatever rubric you're using, the bottom line is touch a kid and find a way to do it. Because they need us right now, even if they don't want to admit it, they need us more than they've ever needed us. Those are my thoughts.
Great thoughts.
Use this star 67. That really, my phys ed people once, because I told them to call and they were like, gave me that freaky outlook. So, but use that star 67 and that way they can call back to school and then you can get your message, but you're still talking to the kid.
Great idea. Great idea. So just a little wrap up. If you could take 5 minutes as directors, not longer than 5, and send me, this is what we're doing type of thing. I'll put together, I'll create the next newsletter with it, etc. This is extremely helpful for me as someone who's retired to see what's really going on. This has been fantastic. I appreciate all the ideas and I appreciate your time right now and to share with each other. Everybody have a great day.
Ron, if
Thanks,
I could just give a quick wrap up. I didn't check my emails beforehand, and I just checked now, and there was an email from one of the assistant principals at the high school, that we're of course having trouble with iTutor, but we did actually receive an email that Google's attempted to solve their problem with Google Meets and allow for live tutoring. So we might be able to go that route as opposed to iTutor, but I guess we'll see what happens. This was literally hot off the presses.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for everything.
Have a great day. Take
You
care.
too.
All right.
Everyone.